So earlier we were talking about some of those, like the awesome cover by Judas Priest, obviously.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I mean, a couple of my favorite covers I've ever had or ever heard were by you guys.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, Green Manalishi, cover of a cover.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing, and take it to the other level. I haven't heard
Cover of a cover of a cover.
that. I did not know.
Fleetwood Mac song.
Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
It's a Fleetwood Mac.
That's why I saw a cover of a cover. Oh,
Right?
I'm losing my.
Of a cover of a cover.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're right. I knew it was Fleetwood Mac. So
It is the Fleetwood Mac.
Peter Green.
anyway, so and I've heard one of my favorite songs of all time is Ballad of Dwight Fry, and
Of
I've
course,
heard
yeah.
stuff you guys have done of that
Of course,
version of that. It's amazing. Although Tim Burton.
Huge Cooper fans. At that time when I was young, I was really into that stuff too.
Well, those first 4 or 5 albums are
Right.
fucking amazing.
So from that to Sex Pistols really wasn't a big deal.
No, right.
You know, Alice Cooper was a
He was scary to your parents.
Yeah.
Parents hated that.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we start every episode of our podcast with Two-Headed Dog by Rocky Erickson. And I was looking at, have you ever done a Rocky Erickson cover? Like what's...
No, I've thought about it though. I want to do one off of Bull of the Woods.
13
Yeah.
elevators.
13-4 Elevators be cool.
You know what I just
Yeah.
found out? I guess he didn't sing on a lot of that.
He didn't sing on that. Another guy sang on that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Have you
He
seen
played guitar on it though.
Oh, okay.
You've seen the documentary on him that they
No.
did?
I've seen it. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's pretty. There, I mean, it's up and down, but there's some scenes in there where it goes into his house and he has to turn on like all this electronic equipment.
Oh yeah,
It's
I've heard about that.
pretty fucking crazy
To
and
just to stop
good.
the voices in his
And
head.
just the way his mom kind of used him for a while, and there's some weird shit there. But I was just kind of curious. I mean, I saw obviously Houdini. You got a two-headed dog in the cover, and I was just like, you know, making my crazy connections. And I could imagine you guys doing an amazing Rocky Erickson cover at some point.
We certainly would. I love playing cover songs. You know.
Yeah.
I love it. It's really fun. You know, I really think it's one of my favorite things to do.
And he's just like that one of those beautiful freaks that hasn't got totally adopted yet, or they've been trying to, kind of like Daniel Johnston or something, but they haven't really fully adopted him yet. And I think that there's just something really genuine and interesting there. I mean, that's kind of where we come from in our, just so you know where we come from in our podcast. It's like we're on like Cairo, but I feel like we're the deformed kids that keep locked in the attic. They don't know we're there yet. I'm sure we'll only be there for like a month or two before they go,
Figure it out.
oh shit.
Hey.
You know, we played a show, what was a festival with him over in Norway, and man, there was a ton of people there to see him, and I look out and I saw people that were singing along to every song, and I was asking somebody, like, how do you guys know this stuff? Because it's pretty underground, really. And like, oh, they've been playing it in clubs here for years, was this the only thing I could say.
He did have a weird like resurgence, but then
Yeah.
I know that, of course, like Return of the Living Dead, that's what turned me on to him, because there's that one song on there, Burn the Flames, and I was like, who and what is that? And then you started hearing the story about him, and it was pretty interesting.
I just got into him simply because of I heard the weird stories about him. That was it.
Yeah.
The Bull of the Woods record is the one that I've really listened to the most. that
Yeah.
Stuff. But I like all that kind of jangly '60s, you know, weird Texas psychedelic, you know,
Well, it's-
psychedelic music like the
it's-
moving sidewalks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Were really good. You know, any of that stuff. Anytime something like that, I'm not really into massively searching it out. But if it falls right in my lap, I will certainly support it and be completely into it. You know.
Very cool. So I guess tell us a little bit about, I mean, we should get into like what you're doing now. You're doing Melvins Lite tour,
Yes.
and Melvins Lite is light due to one less drummer.
One less drummer and a stand-up bass player. There's a stand-up bass, and there's a stand-up bass player.
Although I would contend from what I've heard from Freak Puke, which is your
Yes.
your
The
current
record,
album, that's not a very light bass, even though it's a stand-up bass.
Actually, the record is completely recorded acoustically. With the bass, there's no amplifier on the record at all. It's just a well-mic'd acoustic bass. You know.
A pretty amazing album. I
Yeah,
quite
thank
enjoy
you.
it.
Yeah, I love it. I love
Looking
it.
forward
Came out
to
great.
hearing some of it tonight.
Yep,
I'm
you're
assuming.
going to hear all but one song tonight off of that record.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But yeah, like, I mean, musically it's not, I mean, there's some quiet songs, but it's not light.
Yeah, I had somebody outside asking like who's going to be here or whatever, and I said Melvins, because I was here hanging out. And I said, oh, well, Melvin's light. And they goes, well, what makes it light? And they go, they have one less drummer. But Melvin's Lite is like heavier than most
Yeah, well, I mean, we also
most
didn't
things you
want-
come across.
I mean, we didn't want to call it straight Melvins, thinking that we don't have those guys in the band anymore, because, you know, we will still be playing with the big business guys.
Yeah, it's both things. We're having both things at once. You know.
Very cool.
And then eventually we'll do a big tour where we tour with both. We'll have the Melvins Lite and the Melvins, both. You know.
That sounds great. I mean, I've always loved the way you guys just do what you want to do and make it the way you want to make it, whatever form it takes.
Well, it's nice that after after a long time of not having a lot of people give a shit, it's nice to have it worked out relatively well for the last 20 years. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
It's nice to know that I wasn't completely wrong about what I thought was good about it.
It's like a lot of things, like if you just stay with it long enough,
Yeah.
like the shit falls away, the bullshit falls away, I should say, and then you kind of rise back up. Like you have to kind of go through a dip because, I don't know, you guys will have to go through the swirl of the post Nirvana thing and all that shit.
Yeah, for sure.
But then, you know, once you just kept going and just kept making good music and just kept doing it the way you wanted to do it, I mean, the fans stayed. So,
We always
or
did.
grew.
You know?
Yeah,
And
you
it's
always
weird.
did.
I mean, you know, we have people get to about 35 years old. They have other things going on in their lives, and they move on. You know, I understand that. But we have younger fans that join in that replace them as well. So that's always great to hear people like the opening band, Retox. I was talking to him, the drummer, last night, and I go, "Do you understand that the first song that we're playing in our set, I wrote in 1986, and you were born in 1988?"
I hate it when that shit happens.
He's like, I go, "Then we're playing another song that I wrote in 1983, just to put it in perspective for you." Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I won't ask you too much more. I mean, thank you so much for your time.
Always a pleasure.
What was I going to say? It's a couple of things. Oh, I don't know if you want to talk about it. Like, what's up with the Red Eye thing, Fox? How did that happen? And what's the weirdest thing you've ever seen at Fox?
Well, Greg Gutfeld is a huge music fan.
Is that the host?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I've heard him drop some things that made me think that he probably was.
He knows an awful lot about the kind of music that we would like.
Yeah.
You know? And he's a huge fan. So he liked the Melvins. And so he saw something that I did online with me and Neil Hamburger where we were doing like taking calls and being smartasses online. And he thought it was funny. And so he asked Neil Hamburger to be on, and then he asked me to be on. And so I've been on there 8 or 9, 7, 8, 9 times, something like that. And I am more than willing to appreciate something along those lines because that gives me an opportunity to talk about myself and my band in front of about 6 million viewers. It would never happen, you know.
Yeah,
And
never.
It's only because of Greg, and Greg is a really great guy, and I don't have a lot of problems with doing something like that the way other people do because what I want to do is raise the attention level of our band. That's it.
No doubt.
And if somebody has a problem with that, then I think that they should really come down off their high horse, you know.
Oh yeah, no shit.
It's not just conservative people that watch that station anyway, you know.
Right.
I mean, all kinds of people watch it.
Well, and the people who maybe wouldn't necessarily ever gravitate towards you guys are going to see you and go like, "Wow,
exactly.
this guy with the crazy hair
Yes.
is actually just talking about whatever, and he's just a
Happens all the
guy,
time.
you know."
And
It happens all the time. People stop me all the time and go,
Recognized
"You're
all
on
the
Red
time.
Eye." Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you on Red Eye. you know.
Yeah. I have a new friend in LA for the last 2 years that I met in LA that we've been hanging out ever since solely because he recognized you from Red Eye. It's nothing to do with music. He knows nothing about music. It's hilarious.
Wow.
Totally hilarious. Yeah.
So one last question I want to give it to each of you, and I'll start it with the preface of what made me think of it, and that is one of my favorite, like when I was still playing in punk rock bands and all that kind of stuff, one of my favorite experiences or memories is there was a show at the Tropicana. There was an opening act that didn't show up. I think it was March of Crimes. I'm not positive about that. And so you guys ended up opening and closing.
Oh yeah.
And we played in the middle. So I got to play through Buzz's amp that night because I had a shitty little amp, Bandit PV or something ridiculous that couldn't make it. And I was just like, I got to rock out like really hard and loud and have that kind of that heavy Buzz amp sound. And I was like, that was awesome. And I always remember that as being a great thing. So what is that? I mean, guys, you guys have been playing 20, 25, 30 years now?
Close to 30 years.
What's that one rock and roll experience that you've had that just kind of shines out for you? Whatever that is.
Man, I don't know.
Something if you look back and go like, holy shit, we did that.
Well, I guess it would be we played a show in Olympia was our first show was at the Tropicana ever. And then the next time we played, then I realized that the people that we had played for before didn't hate our band. That was probably the most significant. It was like, oh, that's a relief, you know.
Like you actually were like, whoa, we can actually do
they
this.
actually want to watch us, you know. This is the second time.
That's great.
I think opening for Kiss was pretty surreal, you know, just because they were that band, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so
Like that band you looked at as a teenager and were like, this is the biggest band in the world.
You
And
know,
like,
I was
holy
saying,
shit,
that's
we're
the-
playing
that's
with
the one
them.
I saw them on TV, and I was just like, I'm gonna do this, you know. And so just you know, if you would have told me then, like someday you'll be playing a show with these guys, you know. So
More than one.
yeah, and
At the
and-
Superdome.
and- yeah, that was-
Wow.
and even meeting those guys, and even before that, we played with Gene Simmons. We played Going Blind at a show that we're playing with Primus.
I heard about that.
So-
I didn't see that, but I heard about that.
He actually called us up and asked if he could come down and play it. So that's
was
pretty
cool.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, Gene Simmons calls you.
Yeah.
You're in his Rolodex or whatever.
James is always nice to us.
Yeah, Gene was very nice.
And Quiet Trevor.
Well, in terms of the Melvins, which I've only been a member for a short time, first gig I did with these guys is when we did the Houdini album in London,
Right.
and they were going through a period where they didn't have a bass player at that time, so they asked me to do the gig, and I did it. And I mean, I used to go see the Melvins a lot when I lived in San Francisco before I knew them at all. And,
Sure.
And
When they
know.
first got there, like about that time they were first getting down there?
No, it was about the time when I moved there in '92, and I guess maybe I saw them, I don't know, maybe a couple times before that, before I lived there, but then when I
We
was
played
living
with
there-
Bungle.
Yeah,
before that.
Yeah, they played with Bungle a few times, and I saw them, I definitely would just go see them, you know, not when they played in town, and I was always a fan, and so then when we were playing in London, I can't remember, what's that venue we played, where we did?
What was that place?
Coco's?
Coco.
Yeah. There was kind of a point during the set where I was like, holy shit, I'm in the Melvins.
That's cool.
So that was kind of cool.
You're still in the Melvins.
Yeah, apparently.
We'll see.
See how long that lasts.
Is this the last audition?
Maybe.
We'll see. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for taking
Thank
the
you.
time out
Thank
for
you.
that. Really enjoyed it, and I'm sure our
Thank you
fans
so
will
much.
be.
Fight!